where the most important thing is like how much energy and love we give to our 2D friends. So that whole investment process. So let's see, share my screen. All right. This is the feline category in the study index of the raw contact, and we'll start with session point 46.2, questioner. In that case, we'd better ask you only one question unless you deem it all right to ask any more questions than that. But the one question that is bothering us, which I got in meditation, may be an inappropriate question, but I feel it my duty to ask it because it is central to the instrument's mental condition and ours. It has to do with the 2 cats which we were going to take to have worked upon today for teeth cleaning and the small growth removed from Gandalf's leg. I got the impression that there might be an inroad there for the Orion group, and I was primarily concerned about anything that we could do for protection for these cats, these 2 cats. I may be out of line in asking this, but I feel it my duty to ask it. Would you please give me information, all the information you can, on that subject? I am Ra. The entity mind-body-spirit complex, Gandalf, being harvestable third density, is open to the same type of psychic attack to which you yourselves are vulnerable. Therefore, through the mechanism of images and dreams, it is potentially possible for negative concepts to be offered to this mind-body-spirit complex, thus having possible deleterious results. The entity Fairchild, though harvestable through investment, does not have the vulnerability to attack in as great an amount due to a lack of the mind complex activity in the distortion of conscious devotion. For protection of these entities, we might indicate 2 possibilities. Firstly, the meditation putting on the armor of light. Secondly, the repetition of short ritual sentences known to this instrument from the establishment which distorts spiritual oneness for this instrument. This instrument's knowledge will suffice. This will aid due to the alerting of the many discarnate entities also aware of these ritual sentences. The meditation is appropriate at the time of the activity on behalf of these entities. The ritual may be repeated with efficacy from this time until the safe return at convenient intervals. So again, these session points are kind of highlighting Gandalf and Fairchild, who were getting up in age, and some were having issues, and we know that Gandalf was ready to be harvested. Fairchild, it seemed not so much, not as much mental development. And one of the, well, actually 2 things Ra recommended to protect them was to use and project the armor of light. So perhaps if any of our 2D friends are having issues, we can project an armor of light over them. And also, Ra mentioned the ritual sentences, which is their version of, I think they meant Bible verses, because they mention, where is it here? Firstly, the meditation, putting on the armor of light. Secondly, the repetition of short ritual sentences known to this instrument from the establishment, which distorts spiritual oneness. So, the establishment, which distorts spiritual oneness, is the church, and the ritual sentences are Bible verses. And Carla is well versed in that, so that's what Ra is talking about. The repeating of those verses would be very beneficial because the entities, as Ra is saying, that may be around and attacking Fairchild and Gandalf at this time would know those verses. So probably something like Luke chapter 10, verse 19, or something like that. Um, so those are just some bits of information that if you ever suspect your second density companion is under uh, negative greeting, then you can do the armor of light, or although this is Bible verses, it could be verses from any uh, text considered sacred by humanity, including, I don't know, Bhagavad Gita or Yoga Sutras of the Patanjali, Tao Te Ching, whatever holy text according to humanity, you can read verses from there. This would probably work for humans too. Visualizing the armor of light over them and saying the verses. Of course, these only work when you have faith. So if you don't, then if you don't have faith in anything, none of this will work because it won't activate your will, which is your inborn power that we all have from intelligent infinity. I did find it interesting that once in a second density being, we're talking about cats here, but this could apply to any being, trees, second density, and so on, they can be open to negative greeting. And I just find that very interesting, especially when we think about trees, because sometimes people have negative paranormal experiences with trees, and they will say something like, the tree is, that's an evil tree or whatever. And it makes me think that perhaps, as was the case with Gandalf here, being susceptible to negative greeting, that maybe for whatever reason, that second density tree fell prey to a negative greeting of some kind and wasn't able to break free from it, which is unfortunate because that might stop its growth for a time if it was about to become a mind body spirit complex in 3D. But I'm sure that has a reason behind it too for its overall development. Gina?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, can you? I think I know what it is, but I would like you or anybody to let me know, like the armor of light. How how do you imagine it? You imagine it light or like it's a armor? It's a what? Like, when you imagine it, what are you seeing, Ashley? I just want to increase mine because I think it's not strong enough.
Mm,
And also, this is so interesting to know that a tree or the animals can be, be subject to
yeah,
it's it makes me of a cat that used to just hate me for no reason. And that was I took my little cousin in for a few months, and she had two cats. The boy loved me, but the girl would sneak around and try to scratch me and attack me out of nowhere. So I was one, and I would try everything to please that little cat. And no matter what, she'll take my food and she'll eat it. And then when I'm not looking, she try to scratch me.
Mm,
It's like so interesting.
that is interesting. Um, Cats are definitely susceptible to, spiritual warfare because they're so multidimensional and tapped in anyway. Um, but then there's also some physical things that can come up with cats. Perhaps they have gastrointestinal issues, or sometimes hormonal and mental issues. But that's a whole other topic. Um, and you have to take them to the doctors, and they can be neurologically evaluated and chemically evaluated. And if they're checking out normal, then you could say, oh, this being may be under negative influence. But first, exhaust all 3D methods before thinking that the cat is psychically attacked. Um, Colin, thank you for waiting.
Yeah. Um, so this kind of so were they saying that um I forget the name, not Gandalf, but the other cat,
Fairchild, yeah.
Fairchild, yeah, that were they basically saying that Fairchild wouldn't be considered a mind body spirit complex because of a lack of mind complexity?
So they were saying that Fairchild isn't as vulnerable to negative greeting
Right.
because how, at least for the felines in this passage, they Gandalf was having it seems images, negative images being sent to them. So like telepathic thought forms and things were being sent to them. I mean, they wouldn't understand English words or anything, so they were sending them images that were of a negative nature. And because Gandalf is a mind body spirit complex, harvestable, they were able to perceive that. He was able to perceive that. But Fairchild's mind was not as, that didn't have as much activity. So there really wasn't anything for it to truly process those images that would come in. So they could probably receive them, but not know exactly what it is they're looking at so that they could have a bad reaction.
Right. Yeah, so I guess this was just kind of showing me that there's kind of like a hierarchy in second density and probably all densities to where like psychic breeding isn't even possible on second density entities that aren't complex to the proper degree. So like maybe
Right.
and even like I would even say that maybe plants for the most part are are never able to leap from do the quantum leap from second to third density without having an animal experience to build upon that complexity. So I would think like this
Right.
idea of like evil tree isn't really have any has anything to do with psychic reading, you know. Maybe because of where it kind of comes from, its energies, and how it's born into incarnation, reincarnated stuff. But like, yeah, it's interesting stuff to think that that it's like a light switch turns on for entities above third, and we're probably even capable of sending psychic reading too. So really, any entity above second is kind of like watching and waiting, especially the negative ones, just waiting for that inroad. So when they become complex enough, they're like, haha, now's my chance. I can start messing with them, you know?
Yeah, and this is a beautiful service because we're not able to expand our will, our light, our awareness, or evolve if we don't have that tension or that friction that is introduced by catalyst. sometimes of that nature. There is an aspect of humanity and just the 3D beings template itself where there's also a lot that we reflect within our own minds, because sometimes it's not external. It's just our interpretation of something around us, something that may inherently be neutral, but then we decide, oh, this hurts me, this offends me, or whatever. And so it's half us, and then on occasion, it can be other entities for their own purposes because they're also trying to evolve. And as they try to evolve by interacting with us, then we also evolve by seeing what love is not. And we can't see really what love is or generate the strength of what love is until we experience all the derivatives of not love. So, in essence, this is a very profound service that they supply to us at risk of their own beingness, cut off from the connection to Creator, cut off from the connection to higher self. It's there, you know, it is there, but they deny it. So they're cut off. It's only them. So they experience this profound isolation, this profound loneliness, and yet they probably feel like they're the, you know, I'm going to be the next head honcho of whatever. But it's kind of sad because the reality is just their own, they're just fueled by their own ego and desire, and there's nothing else that they have going for themselves. So just a moment of compassion and understanding for the service that is offered. And I would just say for trees, for example, they have interaction with, so they're their own individual, but they're also connected to the, what I would call the whole of Gaia's mind. So I do think they get, there's an aspect where humans have a big role in the investment process, but also in the passage of time, the change of seasons, that's catalyst for them. You know, Ra said everything that assaults the senses is catalyst. So I imagine having different populations of beings living around them, even if they didn't talk to them, would still affect their growth as well. Even something like a really frigid winter that nearly froze their roots to death and they almost died as a tree, I think that would count as catalyst for them. Or maybe a school of foxes made a home in their little body, and so the tree has this experience of family, and maybe butterflies make homes in them. So they get a different kind of catalyst. It's not always just the human investment, but that natural investment takes a really, really long time, probably like thousands of years. Whereas with a human, it may be 40 years of interaction and boom, they're 3D. Sorry, Ed. Go ahead. Thank you for waiting.
You actually just said a large chunk of what I was going to say. I was going to say about how I've spoken to quite a few trees, and to be fair, to me they seem like third density entities. They're just different to us. Everything's a lot slower. You know, for them, from what I can understand, all the kind of sensory input is like vibration. So, you know, like all the roots, they sense vibration, they sense kind of movement, they sense pressure. The same with the branches, they sense the movement. They can sense every ant crawling on them. They can sense every single like bird that lands on, every movement of every leaf. So it's an incredible amount of sensory information that they have coming in. It's just different to us. And from what I understand, they kind of think very similar to us. They pull all the energy and all the kind of, and it moves up and down, kind of like a pulsing. I suppose the same thing that we've probably got if you looked at us energetically. And really, I think you can tell the kind of polarity of a plant in whatever way from how it grows, what it does, what its function is. Like, so, like I'd say that grass is probably quite a negatively polarized entity. Now, don't get me wrong, it does provide a lot of food for lots of the world, so it's definitely here to doing service, but it owns more of the planet than anything else. You go and look, like the planet is covered. Grass is like owns a huge chunk of Earth. You know, like to the point where it kills forests eventually over a very long time. You know, but then if you think about a tree, right? A tree, if it is like we're saying a third density entity, then I'd say on average a tree's lifespan is probably a good 900 years. And isn't that how long a third density is supposed to be? One incarnation. So you know, having an incarnation as a tree, sitting there motionless, just in like this pure meditative state, understanding every single thing. Your roots connected directly to Gaia and the rest of the the mycelium hive mind. You know, like the animus part of nature that us humans are cut off from. You know, like um,
Yeah.
yeah. What else was I going to say? Yeah, oh yeah, the function. So like, say for example, a fruit tree is probably a very positively orientated entity because it's there growing to produce fruit to sustain all of us. You know, whereas something that produces some kind of poison, something that produces some kind of like, you know, something that's really super invasive and it just takes over everything, whatever else, something that's parasitic. There's lots and lots and lots of plants that essentially live off of each other, off of like this interconnected symbiotic kind of relationship. So, you know, I think that inside that area of second density is some of the richest service and some of the most profound working consciousness. Just that's just my
Yeah.
opinion, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, back to cats. I
I
was going to say about
agree.
cats. Okay, right. Sorry, they shouldn't have my hand up about cats. We've just got so far off track since then that I haven't got back to cats yet. Okay, so
Uh,
cats. One, right? The thing that I think about cats is, yeah, like you have a dog to protect your physical body, and you have a cat to protect the spiritual body, right? You know, a good cat, like you know, obviously you're going to get variation and whatever their own personality is, but a good cat essentially is like a little tuned machine to soak up negative energy. That's why they sit there and stare at doorways or sit there and stare at a window or just follow something around the room. What they're doing is they're sucking that negative energy out of the entity. Then what they're supposed to do is transmute it by purring. So that's when they'll come over and they'll purr and purr and purr. And purring is incredibly healing. It's like a kymatics pattern that organizes and like structures everything, makes so it's does lots of incredible things itself. You know that a cat can heal its own broken bones quicker than any other mammal because of the fact that they purr. Just to say, how cool is that? So
right.
then, so all of that added together means that they're very good little spiritual transmutation muting machines. I have my own personal theory that they
Yes.
were put here by the Anunnaki the same time as us to keep an eye on us. So that's my own theory, and that's why I think Toxoplasm gondii was invented, which is the mind control parasite that makes everybody love cats. Anyway, there you go. All my rants done. Sorry, love you. I'm gonna shut.
That's okay. Thank you for sharing. I'm in agreement with you about the felines. I'm sure humans have their own type of purr, um, though it wouldn't sound as nice. I know. Um, Gina, the way that I view an armor of light is like armor, like a silver from medieval times. That silver armor with a with that form of hardness and sheen, but it's glowing. It's bright and shining as if it was made with metal combined with pieces of the sun. So that is how I view it. And because I've played video games in my life, I've seen armored cats, so I know how to visualize a cat in armor. But you can look online to see like how would the armor fit a cat, and you can imagine that on them, and just as if it's made from the sun and silver shiny metals. Welcome, Anna. Welcome, Gregory. I don't think I greeted you guys.
Thank you.
We are in the study index under felines and just going through a few session points related to that. We just listened to 46.2, and next will be 98.6. Waiting for this to load. (98.6) Questioner. Thank you. The second question is, our oldest cat, Gandalf, has a growth near his spine. Is there any factor that makes the surgical removal of this growth less appropriate than the surgical removal of the growth that we had performed a year ago, last April? And would the most appropriate actions on our part to aid his recovery be the visualization of light surrounding him during the surgery and the repeating of ritual phrases at periodical intervals while he is at the veterinarian's? I am Ra. No, there is no greater cause for caution than previously. And yes, the phrases of which you speak shall aid the entity. Although this entity is in body complex old and therefore liable to danger from what you call your anesthetic, so if it goes under anesthesia, its mental, emotional, and spiritual distortions are such that it is strongly motivated to recover, that it might once again rejoin the loved one. Keep in mind that this entity is harvestable through density. So, again, we're talking about Gandalf, which is the most mind, body, spirit, complex oriented, about to become a third density being, ready to become a third density being, to have its first incarnation as a 3D entity, but it's holding back because it wishes to stay with Don, Carlet, and Jim. And it needs he needs another operation at this time. And Don is worried and wanting to know whether they should surround the doctor's office, the surgery room, with white light and do the Bible verses again in order to assist. But Ra is like, at this point, you can't do any more than you already have done. And anything more won't actually be of help to Gandalf, because basically Gandalf is old now. So all of the things that are happening, his liability to not come out of anesthesia if he goes under for the procedure, all of that is just par for the course of being an old man cat. The same is with us humans. You know, my Nana, she broke her hip, but she was 101. And at that point, the doctors are like, we're not putting her under. She's, for some reason, the older you are, the more susceptible you are to passing when you go under that general anesthetic. So, same with humans. It was a possibility with Gandalf, but Ra offered this comfort that his mental, emotional, and spiritual distortions would push him to recover from the procedure because he wants to stay with them. But Ra also says, keep in mind that Gandalf is a harvestable, he's ready to be harvested. So basically saying you can try everything you want, but if it's time for him to go, he's going to go and have his 3D life. So that is, you know, it's unfortunate because none of us want to lose our second density companions, even if it's, you know, a fish, turtle. It doesn't always have to be the standard cat and dog. It could even be a parrot or a hamster, you know, maybe a little snake. So there's an element here when we have our 2D friends, if they're ready to have their 3D life, no matter what we do magically, how much meditations or powers or whatever we've cultivated, it still may not work if it's their time. Any thoughts, comments, questions related to any of that?
Um, Actually, when they become human, after like they becoming a new human, like fresh, like from cat to human.
So my understanding is that it may not necessarily be human.
Oh,
It will be a third density entity, but it may not be human. I have a
anything like
sneaking suspicion that
mm,
it's not human, that they don't come back as Homo sapien, but they come back as a different kind of being, probably bipedal, capable of all the emotional ranges, or perhaps on that planet, maybe a more limited emotional range. Because if you think about it, it's their first incarnation. So they likely wouldn't want something too intense. And remember, human beings, us, we're on hard mode. Everything is so, this is another reason why ETs are so fascinated with us, because we have such an intensity of emotion, and our emotions are tied to our energies, energy, emotion, emotion. So they likely would spontaneously combust if they had even half of the level of intensity we have experienced in our emotional and mental states. So honestly, I feel like they go to very mild planets where everything's in relative harmony and peace, and they're just getting their bearings. Very intellectual, but maybe not super emotional. And then over time, who knows how many incarnations they'll have, thousands, millions, whatever. Then they'll come and say, well, I've evolved to a point of a seniority of vibration where I can handle a human experience. Those are my thoughts. Dolphin, yeah, there are dolphins on other planets. That's not in the raw material, but there are cetaceans on other worlds, according to many other sources. Our cetaceans are related to those off-world cetaceans, and at some point through the oceans, we were connected dimensionally. Again, that's from general material, not the raw contact. But
You heard the
yes,
story
Ed,
of I think they're called the Dogon or the Drogon or something. They're I think they're a tribe in West Africa, I believe,
yeah,
and they've got this incredible
gotcha.
story that hasn't changed for like thousands and thousands of years about people who dolphins that came down from space. They basically carved out their own lake to land their spaceship in. Then there's cave drawings of these things, and they look like dolphins in spacesuits. Not lying, right? And then they basically told them all about cosmology. They told about all this other stuff, and then they said that they were going to go off and start their own race in the oceans. And thousands of years later, now we have dolphins. Seriously, check it. I'm not lying.
I
um,
believe it.
um, Ed, I took some classes from the Dogons. I mean, not maybe a different branch, and that's not the story they gave me. They gave me.
Are you talking about the ones from Tibet?
Oh, no, no.
There's some in Australia. Uh,
Oh, okay, okay.
there's
I mean,
it may be
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but like that's the story I heard anyway.
it may be similar spelling, but two different tribes.
Oh,
Um,
okay, got you.
one on the African continent, one in Australia. Yeah, there is one. I think yeah, it's one of them. The one either it's maybe the one in Australia. Might be the Aboriginals. Because what I remember about the Dogon is they they received their information from the Seven Sisters, from the Pleiadian Star Mothers. That's where a lot of their mythos that are carved come from. So
But all of their star maps and stuff, they have like no, there's no way that they could know any of that information from Earth. It's literally like star maps of how to get here from there,
yeah,
and they found
Pleiadians.
dolphin people.
Yeah. So there's different. The Dogons aren't the only Aboriginal group in Australia. There's definitely ones because Cryon has a whole book on it tied to Lemuria.
Loads. In fact, most of the different Aboriginal, like the theosophy, as it were, is all of them say that they're star people. Every single one. But then a lot of a lot of the Northern American tribes do as well.
Yeah, they're not all lying. So we'll move on. I have time for probably 2 more session points. Um, we'll go to 98.9. And then we know from the Quo channelings that the orcas and dolphins, we prior incarnations, they chose to give up their more bipedal form, the Atlanteans, in order to have the orca and dolphin bodies. And the orcas we see today are their predecessors, their next generations. So that is in that has been shared by Quo, and I think that we fall under that category as well as those who decided to take on those other bodies, those cetacean bodies. So that's a more recent in the thousands and thousands of years timeline, but then we have a connection there as well. Ed?
Okay, I just googled it. And I found them. And okay, so the Dogon tribe of Mali, West Africa, famously associated with the legend of Nomu. These a group of of celestial beings described in their oral traditions like fish-like amphibious creatures that descended from the sky to earth, while sometimes described as space dolphins. In alternative history theories, due to their aquatic nature, the Nomu are properly understood in Dogon mythology as progenitors of humanity and masters of the water sent by the creator god Amma. They're connected to Sirius. They give us advanced knowledge, including all the star systems and all the stuff they couldn't find with the naked eye, like the Sirius B that we didn't even find till 50 odd years ago. They turned up. They looked like fish. They cut an ocean and they landed their great boat in it with noise and fire. Then proponents believe that it was probably an alien visit. They view the Nomu as teachers and ancestors and hold a crucial place in cosmology rituals. And there's a whole festival to them called the Sigiri Festival.
Okay, cool. So it's Africa and the Marley sect or group. Thank you. I'll share my screen now. Questioner, this is 98.9. I was wondering if I was correct in my assumption that the reason for the growths was a state of anger in the cat, Gandalf, because of the introduction of the newer cats into his environment. Was I correct? I am wrong. The original cause of what you call cancer was the distortion caused by this event. The proximate cause of this growth is the nature of the distortion of the body cells, which you call cancer. Okay, so it's come up in prior sessions that anger is one of the only one of, not the absolute, but is one of the reasons for the formation of cancer, that unprocessed anger leads to that abnormality of cell development and can lead to growths, cancerous growths. So, taking it from that being applied to humans, Don wants to know if this is why Gandalf had the growths. And Ra is saying yes. And it looks like all of the newer cats invading his environment, perhaps also taking attention from Don, Carla, and Jim, maybe not getting as much food, enough attention, that produced anger within him. And I imagine it wasn't easy to process that as a cat, even if you are 3D harvestable. So the body takes on the catalyst, as we learned for humans. If we are not able to mentally cope with a continued catalyst, the body will suck up all that energy, and it can manifest as a number of disorders and diseases. Cancer, when it comes to anger, is like a big culprit here. Um, so Ra agreed with that, acknowledging that it was the original cause, the anger was the original cause, but that the proximate cause, so bare bones biologically, what's actually happening, that the anger led to a distortion of the body cells, which equals cancer. Um, it's very interesting how same principles of catalyst that apply to us apply to 2D beings that are about to have and ready for their 3D experience. It goes to show that this is not necessarily this whole catalyst dance we do. This process is not Homo sapiens specific. Homo sapiens specific. It is third density specific. So I imagine you could have a whole array of different third density entities, and they would also go through that process, even though they look absolutely nothing like us. Um, so there's something about this process of catalyst that I see is more soul related. It's more related to the growth of a soul, not so much a human, which can be a very important perspective to hold just when going through life. I think if we over identify too much with a certain label of self, we can limit our ability to expand. Um, I also see this ability to not hold so tightly to identity as a Homo sapien, and perhaps hold more to the identity of being a soul with a consciousness, eternal light, eternal beingness, just confined and going through a growing process, like a little pebble that goes down a hill and gets bigger and bigger until it becomes a mountain. Seeing from that perspective may help us with unity with each other, with life on Earth, and with life in other galaxies. Um, because in the future, we will likely be connected to beings like those of the Confederation, who have we have them to thank for this material. They'll look nothing like us. So what ties us? It seems to be a human thing to connect, to want to connect with others who have something similar to us. And if someone doesn't have something similar in circumstances, appearance, or mentality, then we struggle. There's friction there. And that's growth. But in order to step beyond, it seems to be more helpful to identify as a soul a heart, and a mind. Because if you identify more as a soul and a heart and a mind, and not the flesh, not the species, not even the planet, or the fact that you're having this particular experience, then when some entity with a dolphin head from Sirius B that the Dogon tribe in West Africa have been writing stories about for millennia, when they come down one day, perhaps you'll be able to say, oh, there's that soul that I also have. There's that mind that I also have. There's that heart that I also have. So it's a random little tangent of inspiration, courtesy of this passage. And let's see what the last one is, if it's kind of short. Okay, so this one is kind of long because you need to read the other one for context. Ah, yes, Ed. Like attracts like. So that will be it for this session. There's something I wanted to do with the last 2 minutes. I noticed that in a lot of the Law of One sessions from Europe to Josh's sessions to Jonathan's, there's always some kind of invocation of healing offered to other selves. And while I don't necessarily plan to do 20-30 minute meditations or a specific video, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Walk for Peace, where the monks were walking for 100 and something days across state lines for peace and compassion. And it's a huge movement. If you don't know, look up Walk for Peace. There were like hundreds of thousands of people, almost like 1 million plus, who walked with the monks to Washington in the name of peace, love, and compassion. And the monks have been, like, since that walk completed, offering information of like hope to people, and it drew everybody from all walks of life, every culture, every background, people who identified as Christian, people who were atheists. Everybody rallied around these monks who were just walking, not preaching anything, not sharing anything, and just it it generated so much love and positivity throughout the U.S. So I would definitely catch up on it. The walk is over. The highlights are, it's everything died down, but you can follow the journey. But the point is, I wanted to do something like that that's done in the other sessions. I'm talking through it now, but like just the invocation of healing to all. And this came from the Walk for Peace. This came from the monks. And the walk that they did was like serious. They had blisters on their feet. Their feet were cut up, bleeding. One got hit by a car, lost his leg. They never stopped this movement. It was pure love and compassion, like the Law of One in its purest form, just moving from state to state in areas that have been very divisive and at each other's throats. And it was a prayer answered for many people. So I just want to read an invocation of healing for you guys. So it's for self and then for other self. And it'll probably take like 60 seconds. But I would like to do that moving forward. The last 2 minutes of the sessions just came to mind, came to heart. So if you have to go, that's okay. If you have 60 seconds, then thank you for your service. All right, let me pull this up. This is from the monks. First, I'm going to just invoke sacred space. One moment. In the light and the love of the one infinite creator, we invoke sacred space. Feel free to repeat this in the pauses if you want, or along with me. May I be free from resentment and conflict. May I be free from physical suffering. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from danger. And may my body and mind be at peace. May all beings be free from resentment and conflict. May all beings be free from physical suffering. May all beings be free from mental suffering. May all beings be free from danger, and may their bodies and minds be at peace. And the love and light of the one infinite creator, it is so. Thank you all for sharing in your intentions.
Amen.
Amen. Adonai, Aho.
Amen. Thank you, Ashley. That's such a great idea to add that to your session.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome. Grateful for Spirit for throwing it into my brain. Should have done it sooner. You don't know what you need to know until you know it. All right, guys. Everyone have a great night, and I will see some of you tomorrow. Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.